Hello, welcome to Smash Hit Sports. I'm Cody, that's Nick, and college basketball had an incredible weekend. The NBA All-Star game they played it. We're going to talk about the games. We're going to do a power ranking of conferences. We have bubble talk, and then we're going to pick next week's games. Before we get started, make sure to like this video. It's the best way to help the podcast. If you're listening on audio, leave us a review, comment, subscribe over there. It's a huge help to us. And subscribe on the YouTube because that is the best platform to help us out on so you don't miss a thing. Nick, college hoops had itself a weekend. We had Auburn, Alabama, which was a 1-2 Iron Bowl. I don't know if it quite delivered on the promises. It was a good game.
I would say it did. I mean,
okay.
There was a stretch at least that was like the most beautiful brand of college basketball like that could exist. It was Alabama was mounting the comeback, and then it was three after heat check after heat check. Both teams just absolute dagger in the chest. And then Auburn pulled away. Alabama ended up shooting pretty bad. But like there was a stretch where I was like, oh my God, I'm floating. And if any game gives me that, then I think it lives up to the expectation.
That's fair. The offensive performances for those two teams were absolutely incredible. And it was the first time I felt in a while that all of the internet sat down and watched a college basketball game. It normally doesn't happen until NFL's over and like college football's long been over. And it was good to have all of the internet watch something at the same time and be like, this is good. This is a good representation of college hoops. And I personally didn't think it lived up to like some of the pre-game hype that it was getting, but it was an incredible game. I mean, College Game Day, the environment was electric. I loved it. It was a great game. I don't take away from that game. I thought Auburn was the best team in the country going into that game. I still think that they are. I don't think any less of Alabama. I still think they're a top 2, 3, 4 team.
Yeah, no, I mean, Alabama's incredible. If you look at shot quality, at what the score should have been realistically, Alabama won that game in quotes 116 to 101. They just couldn't hit open shot. They just underperformed technically, and they still scored over 80 points. That's not to discredit Auburn, but Alabama is clearly still great and very well could go into Auburn and win by 10. You know what I mean? This wasn't oh, see, Alabama, we're better than you. Auburn, no, this just Auburn gets to boost their resume even more. They have the best resume I've ever seen. It's insane. But yeah, nothing against Bama or either team, really.
Yeah. Let's talk about Purdue because this was another incredible game. Purdue, Wisconsin was outstanding. That was an outstanding basketball game. However, Purdue in the same week drops games to Wisconsin and Michigan. I think Michigan now really has control of the Big Ten. Michigan State losing to Indiana State was a huge blow to them. But what do you make of Purdue losing 2 in a row? I now have concerns that the Big Ten does not run through Lafayette, Indiana.
Well, so, who predicted that Purdue would lose both of those games? Who could have done something like that? I don't know.
We'll talk about the game picks from last week when we get to the game picks. All right.
Yeah,
we're not going to discuss it before then.
I will just say that this, yeah, I saw it coming, and I remember if you watched last week's episode, nothing against Purdue. It's just they are starting to mount a resume that is slightly better than I think they actually are, and they're a great team. But people were saying oh my God, if Purdue goes 2-0 this week, they're in a 1 seed conversation. I'm like, Purdue's not a 1 seed. This feels like the perfect spot for them to just drop 2 games, get everyone off their scent, and they'll be fine. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to be fine. They have Indiana on the road on Sunday. I don't know who they play during the week, but I'm pretty confident that Purdue's just going to kind of figure it out. And maybe the Big Ten tournament, maybe they aren't the 1 seed, but I don't know if it matters.
They go into the Breslin Center on Tuesday to play Michigan State and Tom Izzo.
Oh yeah, we have that written down as well. Oh, yeah. So Purdue has a big week, and there's 2 road games in a row for them. But still, so that this feels like the perfect spot for them to kind of bounce back. And it's like, oh, Purdue's, back, but they're not 1 seed good if they win these 2 games. They're just coming off of 2 losses. We'll have to see. I don't want to spoil anything, but I probably, as of right now, am leaning Purdue in both of those games because they easily could have beat Michigan also if you watched that game. Wisconsin, though, that was very impressive. I think I saw a stat that they were the first team to shoot 60% from 3 and have less than 3 turnovers in a road win since like 2010. So they just absolutely detonated.
Yeah, and not just at like Mackey Arena is one of the best home environments in the country. To do it there, of all places, is legitimately insane.
Yeah, they had no errors. They didn't do anything wrong. And this is what we were saying. Again, if you've been listening along with us, Wisconsin's a different team this year. This isn't your Wisconsin of old. Like, they can run and gun. They can shoot the lights out. They can spread the floor. They can play with pace or slow you down. They're versatile for one of the first times under Greg Gard. And like, no one's really talking about them. Even after they beat Purdue on the road, people are like, oh yeah, what, Wisconsin, blah, blah, blah. I feel like they're one of the more under the radar Final Four contenders out there.
Wisconsin could end up a like AP top 10 team by the end of the season, and I would not be shocked. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but I'm interested to see. They have down the stretch Illinois on Tuesday. They have Michigan State the first weekend of March. Outside of that, a lot of winnable games the remainder of their Big Ten schedule. So we'll see. I'll be real interested to see how they fare in the Big Ten tournament. They're 10-4 in conference right now. Like, should be exciting. Exciting down the stretch for the Big Ten. A lot of close. The 2-loss Michigan, 3-loss Michigan State, and then 2 4-loss teams in Purdue and Wisconsin. I think it's going to come down to the wire, which is pretty exciting. Nick, we have to talk about Dan Hurley. We have to talk about Dan Hurley. And I think Dan Hurley wants us to talk about Dan Hurley. I think Dan Hurley in his heart thinks that it's important that we and every other person who talks college basketball talks about Dan Hurley, because for Wisconsin to go on the road in Creighton on Dollar Beer Night and just give Creighton the business, which Creighton has kind of been UConn's Achilles heel over the last couple of years. Like, even in UConn's like great, teams they've had the last 2 seasons, Creighton got the best of them once or twice. For Dan Hurley to win that game, give them the 2 rings, bitch, as he walks out, and call a man bald is just all-time top-tier Dan Hurley shit. Yeah. And then losing to Seton Hall the very next fucking game.
And doing the same thing. He's like 2 rings after losing to Seton Hall.
It's incredible. How do you do that? At some point, like, you have to hey, this season does not fucking matter. Fun fact. Like, last year's rings don't win you a goddamn tournament game. I can promise you that. This UConn team, like, I don't know. And the problem is I don't hate this UConn team. Like, Liam McNeely, I like they have good pieces offensively. Dan Hurley's out of his fucking mind, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, well, UConn is easily, I think, the most must-watch product in the sport right now. From like what you're getting out of watching a game, you're going to get a close game. Doesn't matter who they're playing. It's going to be close. It's going to be chaotic. There's going to be missed calls here. Dan Hurley's going to freak out, guaranteed. That's just a scheduled, fixed event. Just chaos is going to ensue. But yeah, I mean, UConn is good. They just don't have that like interior presence. That's kind of the point I'm honing in on. But they're so fun because of it. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but if they're up 10, they're going to blow that lead. If they're down 10, they're probably going to come back. I love McNeely, love solo ball. Caravan, I think, is super overrated. Have thought that for forever. But like, Dan Hurley's just, he's a fun guy to watch. Fun fact, actually, UConn beating Creighton, that was the first time UConn has ever beat Creighton. Ever. Or at Creighton, I think.
I was going to say, I'm sure they've beaten him before, but wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, I thought that it was like in the Dan Hurley era. So I think I mentioned that last episode. But while watching that game, it was like, and UConn gets their first ever win in Omaha. I'm like, what the? That's crazy.
I guess that's Creighton joined the Big East in 2013. So like, that still seems
well, and
wild,
UConn wasn't in the Big East. They were in the American for a little bit too, which was weird. That was like a weird.
UConn rejoined the Big East July of 2020. Really, okay. They have, yeah. So they probably have 4 meetings on the road at
I don't know
Creighton.
what it is, but it was their first time. But yeah, so and then they lose to Seton Hall. That was insane. Mega chaos. If you didn't watch the highlights or have no idea what happened in that game, go watch them because it's awesome. It was probably my favorite 5-minute stretch of that Saturday.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I texted you. It was insane. It was truly just absolute insanity the way that ended. Let's get into some bubble talk before we do the tier rankings for conferences. As we get into that, home field, use code Nick15 for 15% off your first purchase at home field. I got this sick Bevo Texas shirt. Got a compliment on it today, actually. Granted, it was from my wife, so it doesn't really count. Who's to say? But still got a compliment on it. So home field, the best college merch in the game. They're dropping new stuff legitimately all the time. Use code Nick15 for 15% off your first purchase or the link in the description of this video or in our social medias. But Nick, bubble teams. I want to give you credit. If you have not watched Nick's video that he put out on TikTok, I don't know if he put it out on Instagram or not, but it's definitely on your TikTok, of teams sub 500 in Q1, 2, and 3 games. It's a masterclass video. I got much smarter after having watched it. But that was a shocking stat to me.
Right.
Just a shocking stat. So these bubble teams, I'm excited to talk through them because there are some that have like really good wins. And then some of them where it's like, I don't think they do it all. So I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel about them. Like Texas beating Kentucky was huge.
Yet theoretically,
But
I'm probably going to call back to the video I posted today a good bit when we go through this. But yeah, just let's just give like a percent chance as of right now. It's February 16th. You guys are going to be listening on the 18th. Just like, where do we stand with some of these teams that are hovering the line?
Yeah. So let's start, Nick, with Oklahoma. Do you want me to give the percentage or do you want to?
We can both give a percentage, or we can trade off, right? If you want, right?
Okay.
Like I can do Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, I'll do Oklahoma first. I think they have like a 10% chance of getting into the tournament. They're 3-9 in conference. I just don't I understand that they went undefeated in the non-conference, but they did that in a schedule that just was not, it left a lot to be desired. What are they in the net? Like it can't be good.
Their net ranking isn't great, but I will say I think their out of conference resume is really good. I think it's like top 10, top 15 in the country. Considering one, they were undefeated. The strength of schedule is there. It is there. But you're right, they are 3-9 in conference, and that's no bueno.
And like these a 28-point loss to Auburn, 18-point loss. No. Yeah, an 18-point loss to Tennessee. Like some of these losses are bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
No, they certainly don't like look like a tournament team right now, and I would probably have them in still right now, which is why I hesitate on 10%. But like if you look at the rest of their schedule and then look at how they've been playing, where's the win? Like they need probably more than just one win, obviously. And I just can't really find. They lost to LSU on Saturday. That's supposed to be your win in the SEC. So I don't know. I might go a little higher than 10% because if they can pull an upset here or there, that's like a huge deal. But their schedule is pretty hard.
Their schedule the rest of the way out. They go on the road at Florida. They get Mississippi State and Kentucky at home. They go on the road to Ole Miss. They get Missouri and then Texas.
Yeah.
I just
like, but like if they somehow can like beat Kentucky at home and beat Texas and like then it's like, ooh, I don't know. So it's tough.
How many of those games do they have to win to make the tournament?
3.
I
think if they're 6-12 in conference play, I think I said that going into SEC play that there will probably be a 6-12 SEC team that's going to be seriously considered, which is insane. But like I think that's how good the SEC is. So I would give Oklahoma like maybe like 30% personally, 25 to 30%. But it is low. And I think you're right to think that it's lower than the fact that they're in right now. You would maybe say 50-50. No, it's definitely lower than 50% if you're going to lose to LSU.
Yep. Keeping them moving, Nick. West Virginia.
Yeah, so West Virginia also reeling to an extent. They lost Tucker DeVries, and they just don't look very good. It's kind of a similar situation. But then you look at West Virginia, some of their wins. They have win over Gonzaga, win over Kansas, win over Iowa State, win over Arizona. That's a quartet of wins that a lot of teams don't have that are on the bubble. The bubble is pretty bad. You know, they went to overtime in frickin' Waco. Like, they're clearly a team that could compete in the tournament, but they have to pick up wins. So I would say with West Virginia, it's slightly above 50%, maybe like a 62% right now, but they aren't playing good ball. So it might be lower than some metric sites. You know, I'm kind of going off the dome here just for fun.
Yeah, I was thinking, I think they're on the right side. I think they're on the positive side of 50, but yeah, that's tough. They have a tough road ahead. Arkansas. This is a team that I like Arkansas. I like watching Arkansas. And then like you look at them and they're like, oh, they don't actually have that many wins. And it's interesting. They had the massive win going on the road to Kentucky in Coach Cal's return game. But we talked that Oklahoma's 3-9 in conference. Well, Arkansas is 4-8. And Oklahoma had a better out of conference run than Arkansas did. They played well against Texas A&M, and that was a good game, and they played well last week against Alabama. They have to go in and compete against a couple of these big name teams that they have the next couple of weeks. They get 3 unranked SEC teams at the end of this slate. You have to win those games. Texas, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, you have to win those. It's tough because I don't know. I don't want to count out Coach Cal, but I think it's on the wrong side of 50%. If I was betting, I think it would be like 40, 45.
I think like Vegas probably has them as around there, like probably like plus 120 to make it.
Yeah.
At least that's what it was, I believe. So they play at Auburn on Wednesday. That's not a game we're going to be talking about because it feels like that's kind of a scheduled win for Auburn if they're at home.
We would absolutely both pick Auburn for sure.
Yeah, you know, but then after that, you play Missouri, who's great, but you play them at home. Can they win that game? Of course they can. Arkansas is a talented team. They have Coach Cal. You play Texas at home. You have South Carolina and Vanderbilt on the road, and then Mississippi State at home. There's a world out there where Arkansas goes 5-0 in that stretch. They have the talent to do that. That's not the hardest SEC schedule. There's no Florida in there. After Auburn, like assuming that's a loss, you don't have to deal with Kentucky, Florida, Texas A&M, Auburn, Alabama. You don't have to deal with the top tier, Tennessee. You're playing more beatable teams. So in my video, Arkansas is 8-10. They're sub 500 against the top 3 quadrants. And obviously the reason that is important is because who cares about quad 4 wins? Those shouldn't matter. So I think the committee likes that metric a lot more than people think because they're judging you. What have you done against teams that are competent? Teams that like, what's your real schedule and then what's your real results? Arkansas 8-10. It's not that good, right? And there's a lot like North Carolina's 9-11, so you can't claim SEC's harder. They've played less quad 1, 2, and 3 games than an ACC team, you know? So I really do think as of right now, they are on the wrong side for sure. But I think their chances of doing enough in that 5-game stretch are pretty high. So I would give them like a 65% chance.
Ooh, okay. I like that. Speaking of North Carolina, let's move to the Tar Heels. What are the chances you think they make the tournament? Because the ACC is, I think we're looking at what, 4 ACC teams getting in?
Yeah. So Wake Forest lost to Florida State, and everyone was like, "This is a disaster. They're done." And then they went into SMU and kind of belt to ass the Mustangs. So Wake Forest is back in for sure. But anything can happen in the one bad loss in the ACC if you're a bubble team and you're screwed. So North Carolina can't afford it either. And the only thing they have is Duke that could boost their resume, really. So if they beat Duke, I think you have a good shot of getting in, like 80+%, assuming they don't lose any of their other games. But if they
North
lose
Carolina's schedule is putrid.
Yeah, if they lose to Duke, they have nothing else on the resume. So I would say 15% chance. It's bad.
If they lose any one of those other games, I think they might be done. NC State, Virginia, Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech. That is the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the ACC.
Well, every team in the ACC is bottom of the ACC, it feels like. But
the bottom half of the ACC is the whole conference. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. You have like 4 or 5 good teams, and then it's just, oh, that's the worst team I've ever seen. But yeah, so North Carolina, like I'll say, like let's say they lose to Virginia and then beat Duke. They have a better chance after that than they do currently if the tournament was seeded right now. So the Duke win is really all that matters. I give them like a 22% chance of making it just because I really don't think they can beat Duke. If you think they can beat Duke, then you can boost that up to even almost like 50%. I just don't think they have it in them at all.
Yep. The Texas Longhorns, Nick, I kind of like this Texas team. And they showed what they could do, but they also had they've lost 3 of their last 4. They needed that Kentucky win desperately. But I think this Texas team could make a little bit of a run and get in the tournament. I would put them like on the right side of 50. I think it's like 55, 54, but not quite 55. Put it at 54. But they get South Carolina, Arkansas, which is a winnable game, Georgia, and Oklahoma. If they can beat 3 of those teams, I think would that put them on the right side of your metric? I don't know. But I think it'd be close.
Yeah, I mean, it would, right? If they're 8-10, if they go 3-4 in their next 4, they would be, I mean, they'd be 11-11, but like that's fine. You'd be 500. But again, I do think that the SEC could be, it's definitely I think one team from the SEC will be below 500, that metric against quads 1, 2, and 3. They're going to get someone in that is below 500 there. I don't think they're going to get 3 in or 2 really. But Texas, yeah, they go 3-4 there. I think you give it to them. I like 55%. Obviously, they pass the eye test just with the talent they have, like Trey Johnson, Tremont Mark. They have ballers. I just really don't. Yeah, I don't like the fact that they're 8-10 right now.
Trey Johnson's a player, man. He's fun to watch.
But
he's an NBA guy.
I think that's way lower than other people would say, but they, I think, aren't looking at it strongly enough or intently enough. So 55 is good.
Wake Forest, we just talked about them. Obviously, they have, they won a big game against SMU. We picked that one because it had such big implications on the bubble, on the tournament, on the ACC. Where do you have this Wake Forest team?
Yeah, Wake Forest is, I mean, that's a huge win because it's on the road, so it's quad 1. So now they have a win against Michigan and SMU on the road. That puts them above some of the, like the VCUs of the world, the Drakes of the world, in the sense that like the ACC is almost like a mid-major where you just really need like 2 or 3 quad 1 wins because that's all you are given. And then just beat everyone else. Like Wake Forest is probably going to end the season with a really good record, like 24-7, 23-8. It's just looking at those quad 1s. And if they have 2 really good wins and a pretty good record and a high standing in the ACC, good resume metrics, like they should be fine. They're low in the net, but they're high in like KPI and strength of record. So I gave Wake Forest after Saturday like a 77% chance. They're probably the highest out of any of these teams, which is crazy, but it's looking at the rest of their games, they should be fine, right? All these other teams have to deal with a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. The next up, San Diego State, which is the only non-power conference team on this list. I like San Diego State. It's interesting because I don't know if the Mountain West, who's gotten the benefit of the doubt the last couple of years by the committee, I don't think they're going to get that same benefit of the doubt that we've seen in years past. The Mountain West got a ton of teams in the last 2 seasons. They have not done well in the tournament. However, I think San Diego State has enough on their resume. I think they're like 50th in the net, like right on the bubble. But I think they'll end up getting in. I think San Diego State, they're the 3rd or 4th team. If you look at the Mountain West standings right now, they're 3rd in the Mountain West behind New Mexico and Utah State. I think if they can stay at that 3rd spot, I think they'll get in. Now, if they get passed up by Colorado State, then I think Colorado State would probably have the better shot. And even then, I don't know if Colorado State will get in. But yeah, I think if San Diego State can stay 3rd in the Mountain West, I think they will get in.
What percent would you give it?
Let's go 62. What did you say Wake Forest was?
77.
77? Okay, 62. not as confident in them as Wake Forest, but I'm more confident in them than a lot of the other teams on this list.
Yeah, I mean, 62 is not. I don't think that's super wrong. I think that's probably higher just because they have wins over. They beat Houston in the non-con on a neutral court. Like, that's a huge win. It's one of the best wins you can have. They might have beat. I don't remember who else from that Thanksgiving Feast Week tournament they beat, but like the only problem is San Diego State drops one game to like a
They
San
beat
Jose
Creighton.
State. Yeah, okay, there it is. But yeah, like they needed to come back from behind twice to beat San Jose State. I believe that's quad 4. Like they are kind of hiccuping around some of these bad teams, and all it takes is one loss to one of those teams, and that percentage drops a lot. So 62% isn't terrible because clearly they're flirting with the pain of that. And I think it's very possible they do have an ugly loss down the stretch here that drops them to 62. But as of right now, I'm not willing to say that. So I would put San Diego State up at around like the high 80% chance. But like if they lose, then we're starting to talk like, you're like nearing 50. You're going to be desperate on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, and they get Utah State and New Mexico 3 days apart from each other, which is going to be, that's a test. That's a real test for the San Diego State squad.
Yeah, technically fine losses as well. So it's tough. Yeah.
Yep. Next up on the list, SMU on the wrong side of the Wake Forest SMU matchup that happened this weekend. Where do you have this SMU squad? Because there's a line in the ACC. Somebody's going to have to draw it, and it's either before SMU or it's after SMU, and I don't know where that line is.
Well, so the problem with SMU is they have 0 good wins against anybody. They just have done absolutely nothing. Like they can beat teams that are their level or worse, but they play Louisville at home, they play Duke at home, they get dogged. They play Wake Forest at home, they get dogged. Like every team they've played that's good, they've gotten at home and they've gotten smoked by them. And they get Clemson at home, of course. So we'll see what happens there. That's this Saturday, I think. Even if they win that game, I think they have a pretty tough chance of making it because that's one quad 1 game. That's all they have left is that one quad 1 opportunity. They win that at home, and the committee suddenly is like, oh, look, they can compete. Like, I don't really think so. I think SMU, I had them in, and I think that loss to Wake Forest took them all the way down to like a 20% chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge 0 quad 1 wins. They're 0-4 in quad 1. It's tough to overcome that. I mean, there are mid-major schools with more quad 1 wins.
Yeah, some of the worst teams in college basketball at least have won.
Yep. Last team on this list is Indiana. I am a Indiana resident. I don't know if I would call myself a Hoosier. I'm a Hoosier in terms of like I live in the state, but not a Indiana fan. But I don't root against Indiana. The problem with this Indiana team is they have shown no signs of life for so long. And then they finally get this win against Michigan State. I thought they were going to quit after they lost to Purdue because they had a shot to beat Purdue at the end. Mike Woodson, all-time choke job, like just not calling his timeouts. Then they get this huge win against Michigan State, which shocked me. I still don't know if I have enough faith in this Indiana team to win the games they need to down the stretch in order to make the tournament. Like they have Purdue next Sunday. They have a full week. They have a full week off to prepare for that game. It's at home. If they don't win that game, it's done. It's lights out. So do I think they beat Purdue at home?
They could.
Is Purdue going to lose 3-4 straight? Like that I can't. I don't know if I believe in this team that much. They also lost to UCLA at home on Friday. Like UCLA's good, but they're not as good as Michigan State. They're certainly not as good as Purdue. I'm going to say like, I'm going to say 30%. I'm going to say 30%.
I think that's probably about right. Factoid, past 4 weeks of college basketball, at least this is as of last Wednesday, past 4 weeks, who's the best team in college basketball? UCLA actually is the number 1 team. If you go back, or maybe that was 3 weeks, and if you go back, no, I think it is 4 weeks, and if you go back 3 weeks, it's Kansas State. That probably isn't true anymore because they lost. But that was fascinating because it was Kansas State, UCLA, and then like Houston at the top where I was like, whoa, this is a pretty big sample size of playing incredible ball. So Indiana losing to UCLA, whatever, fine. I do agree that if you really want to make it, like, go beat Purdue. They're coming into your house. Just go fricking beat them. What I will say is that I would have had them maybe 20%, and then I saw the metric that they are 11-11 against the top three quadrants, meaning they didn't have this horrid non-conference where they scheduled games against Mississippi Valley State and IUPUI and Arkansas Pine Bluff, like some of the worst teams ever. Indiana has challenged themselves, and they are a 500 team against competent teams. They are capable of beating Michigan State at Michigan State. They've lost some really close ones because their coach is an idiot. But I have faith in them to actually fight. And the bubble's bad enough where maybe I would go even higher than 30%, maybe up to like 40%, which is really just the metric itself brings me up a little bit there because I think I think they're closer than people think. That's all.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, let's get into, we're going to rank conferences. We're going to keep this real simple. The conference rankings that we have, if you're listening to the audio version, the tier list, we have elite, respectable, fun, boring, and who in terms of these conferences. So Nick, let's just start. The SEC has to be at the top. It's been all anybody's talked about all college basketball season long. The SEC has been the elite of elite conferences this year, and I feel pretty confident in that. They've been outstanding. They've been absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that the question really is, do we put another team or another conference in the elite tier, or do we just let the SEC sit up there alone? I think the SEC almost deserves its own tier. So if you're willing, Cody, maybe we make another tier above that is just god-like, inhumane, like best you've ever seen tier. And we put the SEC alone in that.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
This tier is the SEC tier. I'm good with that. I feel confident about that. We could just God tier SEC.
Yeah, I mean, they're 100% God tier. And then in elite, we can put the Big 10, we can put the Big 12. That's pretty clear. And then I don't know if I'm willing to label the Big East in elite. That's the tough one. ACC is definitely not this year, but the question is the Big East. What are your thoughts on the Big East?
The top of the Big East, yes. I feel good about the top of the Big East. And I think we would be doing a disservice to the St. John's, the Creightons, even UConn. Marquette is still having a good year. I would still put the Big East in elite. I just don't, there's not, like, they don't have the depth that they've had in years past, but I still feel pretty good about putting them in that elite tier and not feeling like terrible about it. Where is the Big East? Am I crazy?
It's the bottom right, above Sunbelt.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's weird because there's only 10 teams. And Seton Hall beating UConn is kind of like, hey, look, maybe this conference is actually more competitive than you think. Like, Georgetown isn't a tournament team, but they're respectable. Xavier might not be a tournament team, but they're certainly respectable. Butler, it has a pretty good squad. Like, it's just tricky because the Big 12 is definitely better than the Big East by, like, I would say a substantial margin. So it's just tough putting them on the same tier. But the Big East is probably better than respectable, right? They're better than the ACC. Is the worst of the five for sure.
This might be a crazy take. I would almost put the ACC in boring. I would almost put the ACC in boring because outside of Duke and Clemson,
yeah,
and Louisville, Duke, Clemson, and Louisville,
it's still Power Five, and there's a lot of really fun players and good games that happen. Like, I don't think you can put it in boring. It's a respectable conference. They are obviously underperforming, but like you don't look at the ACC and say, like, they're worse than the Mountain West. They still have Duke, Clemson, Louisville, and Wake Forest and North Carolina can play. Like, North Carolina lost to Kansas by 3, Michigan State by 3, Florida by 5. Like Pitt beat West Virginia by like 30. I think they beat Ohio State. like they have teams. It's just way worse. They have to be a tier below the other three. So respectable makes sense.
That's fair. I will agree with it. I'll agree with it. I don't love it, but I'll agree with it. I think the next easiest decision on here is the A10, which is this the A10? I can't see this logo at all. It is the
Yeah, it
A10.
is. That's the A10.
God, the A10 is in respectable. The A10 has to be in respectable. George Mason, VCU, Dayton, Loyola, they all deserve to be here. Respectable conference.
There are
I
a
have to
ton of
put the
awesome A10. Yeah, I love the A10. The A10 will never not be respectable, in my opinion. It's a perfect spot for them. I will counter that and say that the WCC deserves a spot in respectable as well. It's actually probably the deepest it's ever been in the WCC this year. Because you have Santa Clara, who's top 60 in the net, and you have San Francisco, who is technically on the bubble, and you have Oregon State, who's like not a bad team. Like it, and obviously Gonzaga and St. Mary's. It's kind of like there was a world out there where the WCC got like 4 teams in if everything went right, and that would be crazy. So yeah, very respectable year for them.
Yeah, let's talk through what else. Who else do we need to talk about here? I like the MAC. The MAC. The problem with the MAC is that they're a little top heavy. Like
Then I can't put the MAC in the same tier as the ACC. I would
I
put the
know.
American in the same tier with like it's the Americans definitely on the end of the spectrum, and obviously the
Okay.
Mountain West is in there as well. But yeah, the American has like Memphis and then some fun teams in the sense of like, Wichita beat Memphis today. There's North Texas. Temple plays good ball. There's UAB, who's pretty fun. Like that, I enjoy watching American basketball, and I think it's a respectable conference, but it's certainly a one bid league. You know what else, Cody, that I'm going to put in respectable? This is probably the last one. Is the Big West?
Okay.
I think the Big West with UC San Diego and UC Irvine having the discourse right now of deserving 2 teams, like a 2-bid Big West is in the talks. Like there's a decent chance it happens. That's pretty crazy.
That's also very respectable.
Also, there's the Missouri Valley too, which is in a similar spot with Drake and Bradley. And there's Illinois, Chicago, and there's a couple other good teams in there that like Northern Iowa fights. You could argue Missouri Valley is respectable as well, but
Look, you don't have to twist my arm to talk about the Missouri Valley Conference.
Arch Madness.
Okay. Arch Madness, it's incredible. It hits every year. Indiana State, obviously they don't have the fun Robert Avila that they had, but damn it, it's still a fun conference. Like there's still great teams to talk about. Like Drake obviously is the shining star of that conference, but
and they lost.
They're a
lost
good, respectable conference.
Lost to Bradley. So yeah, I would say respectable. Like they would fit in fun, but it feels a little disrespectful because like they're better than that. All right, but that's it. In my opinion, unless we see something later, I think we can move into the fun category. That is, in my opinion, where the MAC belongs.
Yeah, I think the MAC shines in the fun. There's a lot of good. The MAC has some crazy games. Ball State had a wild ass game last week. The MAC plays a fun brand of basketball, and I'm okay with that. Akron's the top of it, but
it's just MACtion. It's always interesting. I also think we could throw in the Summit. That is the North Dakota, South Dakota state teams, and then Omaha, who is having a glorious kind of dreamlike season with some insanely fun games that I recommend watching back or at least looking into. It's like they're clearly not a 2-bid league or anything close to it.
Yep.
But like you turn on some Summit League hoops, you're probably going to get some good basketball. It's pretty fun. A lot of white boys up there too.
Oh yeah, a lot of exciting whites.
Exciting whites. If you like that, you'll like Summit.
Nick, How do you feel about the Ivy League this year?
I don't think it's that fun, if I'm being honest. I think it's actually quite boring.
Okay.
Normally fun, normally once that tournament starts, then it's like, oh, the Ivy League, whoever's the representative, they're always going to win, blah, blah, blah. But like Yale played Princeton on Saturday, and that was kind of like, ooh, who's the leader in the clubhouse in the Ivy League? Yale won by like 40. Yale is clearly the best team there.
Mhm.
They've had some possibly fun results, like I think Columbia beat Villanova, but no, it's pretty lame this year from like just overall discourse in the Ivy League. I would say boring for them.
Yeah, that's fair. CUSA, I don't like Middle Tennessee State is typically the CUSA team that like I rock with in terms of
Yeah, they're
I
good.
see them on my bracket and I'm like, oh, they could do it. I don't think Conference USA this year is incredibly exciting. I just like Jacksonville State, I guess, like Liberty's.
Well, there's Liberty, who I love. I adore Liberty. I'm a Liberty darling. But yeah, I haven't watched enough Conference USA. I think some people would maybe argue that they should be above it, but I don't hate that. I don't think I hate that. And Sunbelt's in a similar situation where it's like Troy, Arkansas State, like some of these teams, it's not that fun per se. I suppose they have some cool things happening, but overall, I don't know. I think the CAA is we could put in the fun category, formerly known as the Colonial Athletic. I think it's the Coastal Athletic now, but that's your
Yeah.
Charleston Conference. That's, you have
William and Mary.
Towson's in there,
Yeah.
and UNC Wilmington's in there, and you just get a lot of really fun basketball over there. Like there's a lot of good games. It's a deep conference, worth talking about, very fun. Then we get tough. SoCon is Furman, Samford, and those lot. It's pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. I think we could probably there's also Chattanooga. I think just played Samford and won. So I think we
Okay.
could put SoCon in the fun. With the Horizon, you have Cleveland State and Purdue Fort Wayne kind of battling it out, but that's not like a fun conference.
The thing about like I was excited for that one because I thought that there was potential that Purdue Fort Wayne could win that conference, be a first time tournament team. That would be the first time they've ever made the NCAA tournament. There are 5 teams within 2 games of each other in terms of conference play, from 12-4 to 11-6. So I think it could potentially be fun, but I also don't think that there's a team in that could jump out and win a tournament game. So
Yeah,
the question is,
I don't know if like the brand of the basketball they're playing is that good either.
okay,
In my opinion, the A-Sun is Lipscomb, and Lipscomb's probably pretty clearly the best team, so that can be boring as well. I'm trying to see, like, the only other one you could put in fun is probably the WAC. That is Utah Valley and Grand Canyon.
okay.
Grand Canyon's fun.
Grand Canyon is fun.
They're super
I think
fun.
just purely based on Grand Canyon.
Yeah, like that is the party school of college basketball, so you kind of have to put them in fun. But outside of those top 2 teams, the conference itself isn't like, oh, this is awesome, But like those 2 teams are very fun. So yeah, tune into that, to the WAC if you dare.
Yeah. I'm going to put the Patriot League in who? And here's the reason why I'm putting the Patriot League in who, Nick. Colgate has been the representative of the Patriot League for the last 8 years, I think. It's a long, they have a really long stretch of winning this league. Lehigh is another school that I associate with the Patriot League.
And Bucknell.
This year, their Kin or Army could represent the Patriot League, which is fitting because of the name of the conference. However, I think we could potentially see some teams in the tournament that we're just like, wait, what? How? And that's why I'm putting them in who.
I don't know.
I don't think we're ready for that.
I might have to flag it just because when we get down to the who category, that's the thing about college basketball is that we have teams like Kentucky Wesleyan and Kansas Baptist and teams you've never heard of, Prairie View A&M, That's who to me with the Patriot League. Like it's always Colgate, sure, but every team, like even Holy Cross, whoever's up there, Boston U, those are proud programs at least that like everyone knows. It's just lame. So I really do think they're almost like the poster child of boring,
All right.
which is I know, but like everyone knows the teams in there. We're gonna get to conferences where it's like I don't even know who's in there. I think I could
Okay.
name almost all the Patriot League teams.
That's fair. We'll real quick, we'll just rattle these off. I'm going to go in like alphabetical order of the conferences we have remaining. The America East. Bryant is currently in the lead of this conference. They're 11-1. Maine and Vermont are the other two teams at the top. Where do you have them, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, probably who. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
Vermont's always there, but like that's a much tougher one. Is that where Farley Dickinson came out of, or is St. Peter's in there? I have no idea. That might be the NEC. Who knows?
UMBC. I mean,
NBC,
hey,
okay, yeah. Like that's like 16 seed territory,
yes.
and who cares?
Yep. Next one up is the, what have we not hit? Big Sky. Montana, Northern Colorado, Portland State,
Who?
like Idaho.
Yeah. I mean, we can. I don't. You can put them anywhere. It's Northern Colorado is the representative right now. They're kind of fun, but like they just have like a bunch of big, exciting whites. But it's like I don't care about them at all.
That's fair. The Big South, High Point looks like it's going to be the representative this year. Boring or who?
Who else is in there?
UNC Asheville, Winthrop, Charleston Southern, Longwood, Gardner Webb, Presbyterian, USC Upstate.
No Wofford in there, so then yeah, that's got to be the Who conference because UNC Asheville's been in the tournament a couple times, but they're like 15 seeds, so
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who, the Big South.
UNC Upstate, Nick.
US.
5-23. Sorry, USC Upstate. 5-23.
No, I'm telling you, there's some real bad teams out there, man.
Yeah, they are a real bad team. That is the Big South. We have Big 10, Big West. Did we hit Big West? What is?
Yeah, the Big West is in respectable.
Colonial Athletic, we hit CUSA, Horizon, Ivy, Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, the MAAC, the MAAC. Looks like it'll be either Quinnipiac or Marist.
Well, yeah,
I know
Merrimack.
those teams.
Could be Merrimack.
Merrimack?
They're up there.
Merrimack College.
That's got to be who. Because if it's not Iona, then it's like.
Yep. That's fair.
What is this?
St. Peter's
the MEAC.
In that conference.
Okay, cool. Who knew?
Yeah, the MEAC, Norfolk State,
right,
Delaware State, SC State, Howard.
Nope. Who?
Yep. Okay. Keeping that moving. That way you guys, hey, when you see these teams come up in March Madness, you'll know. The NEC, right now, the current lead is Central Connecticut.
Yeah, Central Connecticut State, mind you.
Central Connecticut State?
Yes.
Wow. Just says Central Connecticut on the...
Yeah, it's CCSU from a technicality standpoint, at least. If you
Love
look at
that. All right. The Ohio Valley.
Morehead State
is Southeast Missouri, Little Rock, Morehead State, Tennessee State.
Yeah, I mean,
we got to go who?
Yeah,
the Pac-12. Rest in peace. We got to put them at the end. Pac-12 at the end.
Yeah, they don't even exist. The Southland is McNeese.
Yep.
But then everyone else is like it's Texas A&M Commerce and Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
Hold on. I always bet Texas A&M Corpus Christi. They are like death taxes. Texas A&M Corpus Christi at home. I'm putting them in boring. I've made an executive decision.
Boring? Well, I mean, they have McNeese, so I don't know. But is Mississippi Valley State in there, or are they in the SWAC?
I believe they are in the SWAC, it looks like. Yeah, Mississippi Valley State is in the SWAC.
Yeah, so that...
Do we put them in fun?
Got to be the worst conference
because
ever.
they have Mississippi Valley State. Just put them in fun for fun.
Yeah, put them
just in fun.
No, we should put them in elite.
The SWAC. Yep, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Big East, and SWAC. We can't do that. We can't do our viewers like that. As much as I would love to, we just can't. They know more ball than that
Dude,
than we're
that
giving
would
them
be an
credit for.
epic prank. We'd be pranking them so hard, but you're right. Whatever.
Yep.
If
And then the
if
Pac-12 at the end.
we'll see. All right,
That's
Pac-12. Yeah, no one's in
this
there.
is art. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. We don't have a tier as good as the Gonzaga tier, but
Yeah, the Gonzaga
feel-
tier was awesome. So fitting.
I feel pretty good about it. All right, Nick, let's pick this week's games. Let's talk about last week. All right, I went 5-11. Okay, I started out 1-8. It was not good. It was very not good. You went 11-5. You now have a 10-game lead on me. I am 23-25 through 3 weeks of picking games. Sub 500 is unacceptable. Look, we had a players only meeting. All right, I sat down. Me, and my team, we sat down. We had a players only meeting. We talked about it. We have a new strategy headed in this week. All right, we got a new game plan. We're going to run zone. We're pressing.
You're gonna play defense.
We're running. Yeah, we're running 2-2-1. Like we're throwing everything out the window. We're restarting. I'm dialed in.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
That's my statement. Okay. That's accountability. Right. I'm not going to blame the refs. I'm not going to say, hey, I won last year. I got a ring. So I'm going to sit here and still, stand on my business.
Yeah, and
I'm going to take
your
accountability.
players are going to appreciate that. They're going to be like, you know what, like our coach is honorable. That this is, we got to pick it up. This isn't out of our control. This is within our control. We have to do better. I will say it is hard. Like I'm not profitable. I'm not that profitable. Like gambling, I feel like there's a lot of things that are like I feel confident about and they don't happen. 11-5 every week is good, but like you think about like if this was college football and I was shooting 66%, we have tons of weeks where we did that,
Oh, yeah.
And in college basketball, I think it's a lot harder to get above that. Like I think 11-5 almost feels like I'm capped there. I don't know if I can even. I think 16-0 might be impossible.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Double-digit weeks is tough. Like a double-digit win week is hard to get. It's hard to get.
Yeah, because we're putting games on here that are literally could go either way.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah, let's start with the Tuesday slate. Purdue at Michigan. Both of these teams coming off some losses. Sorry, Purdue at Michigan State. Michigan State is coming off of the win against Illinois. Izzo has finally passed Bob Knight for the record for most wins in the Big Ten all time. Who do you got in this one, Nick?
I mean, Michigan State is going to be so rowdy for this one, but are they going to lose? This is so hard because Purdue lost 2 in a row, but I think I have to go Purdue. I think I just have to. I just think Purdue's better. That's all.
There are very few guards that I think could come into the Breslin Center and win a game like that, and Braden Smith is one of them. However, I have to go Michigan State here. I have to go Michigan State.
It's such a toss-up.
Yeah, this is as close to 50-50 as it gets. Texas A&M on the road at Mississippi State. Texas A&M's played some good games. Mississippi State, huge win against Ole Miss in the Battle of the Blues down there in Mississippi. I like Texas A&M on the road. Texas A&M's a gritty team, man. They're a gritty, good team.
Sneaky, way closer to a 1 seed than people think. Like they have such an elite resume, and if they just kind of silently start to kind of just win games the way that they did against, I think they beat Missouri, they beat Arkansas. If they beat Mississippi State, then it's just like, Texas A&M just taking care of business. And then all of a sudden it's like, holy hell, they're 12-3 in quad 1 at the end of the year. Like, what do we do about this? So I can see that narrative happening. I'm going to go Texas A&M as well. But honestly, it is more so because I literally hate Mississippi State. I just hate them. And I hate them even more now, Cody, because I bet on Ole Miss pretty aggressively to beat Mississippi State because of my hatred for Mississippi State. And Mississippi State won on the road. And so now, this is one of my arch rivals right now. Like on my enemies list, that whole school is very high up there.
I love that. I love that for you. College basketball needs more hatred, and your hatred for Mississippi State fuels me.
It's real.
Illinois at Wisconsin. Wisconsin, we've said it, like they could just silently make their way up to a top 10, like a 3 seed team and be real dangerous. I'm taking Wisconsin at home here.
Same. And I just feel like I can't really justify, like, I want to pick Illinois, but Wisconsin's playing too well, and Illinois is kind of finding God a little bit right now. And I just don't know, like, going into Wisconsin, I don't think that's necessarily the place to, like, figure it out. Maybe they do and still lose, but to go in and, like, win Wisconsin, I don't see them playing a bad game in that sense at home against Illinois. Illinois, I don't know. I like Wisconsin.
Yep. Kansas at BYU. And I know what you're thinking. Why is this game Kansas coming off of a bad loss? BYU coming off of it doesn't look like a great win on paper against Kansas State. However, this Kansas State team could not be stopped for a while. They had rattled off wins against Iowa State, Arizona State, Kansas, and Arizona, 4 consecutive games. West Virginia in that stretch, 6 straight. And yet they went into BYU and they lost by 15. BYU playing some really good basketball even after the departure of Mark Pope. Kansas, on the other hand, coming off of a loss to a Utah team that is just quite frankly not good. But
yeah, Utah.
Do you blame this on people say that mountain trip is always really difficult? And Kansas, I guess they didn't go on the road against Colorado, but they played Colorado and then went at Utah. Now you go at Utah, at BYU. Like, I don't know.
I mean, there's like scientific proof that it's harder, so sure. But I really just think that we could get into that big time. Like the NIL era, transfer portal era, I think Bill Self has so much leeway and so much funding and has a lifetime contract at Kansas. And he was very frustrated last year when like Kevin McCullough went down, Dickinson went down. He was like, I like need to just spend a fuck ton of money and go get a great team because I can do that. I have the power to do that here. But he didn't like, that's the thing you miss is that you're getting guys that aren't wearing the Kansas logo with pride. You're getting guys that are just like, they paid AJ Storr so much money and he sucks. He is garbage.
Yeah.
He is literally like, how was he all Big Ten last year? He's that bad. And like Dickinson is honestly like kind of a thorn in the side of the program. And DeJuan Harris at point guard, like he still can't shoot. KJ Adams can't space the floor. Like I think the team just wasn't constructed properly. So the blame, I don't think is on like the coaching itself. I think it's on Bill Self and the supporting cast.
The GM.
Yeah, as the GM did a bad job. The coach is good. The GM botched it, and Kansas is just going to continue. Nothing's going to change. People expect it to change with them because of their history. I don't see it changing. They could very well go into BYU and win and then lose to in Oklahoma State, right? Like, it's just weird with them. I don't know. It feels like too proud of a program, and BYU feels like they can afford a loss now, so I'll just take Kansas here.
Okay. I'm going to take BYU just to be different, which has worked out so poorly for me in every game that I've picked against you this year. But hey, why not get back on the horse? We'll try it one more time.
Yeah.
That is it for the Tuesday slate. Wednesday, Alabama at Missouri should be a great game. This Missouri team, they just refuse to quit and give up and die. Is Alabama the hill that you want to die on, though, picking Missouri? I'm not going to. I'm going to pick Alabama.
So tough with this one.
This game's, yeah.
If you go Alabama, I'll go Missouri. Missouri at home, and this is the trap that I think people fall into sometimes. It's the inverse trap of like, oh, Florida just beat Auburn, so now they're going to lose to Mississippi State because they're coming off of this big win. And I think people see Alabama loses at home to Auburn. They are going to bounce back 100%. They are absolutely going to. And that's going to be such a common mindset that like
on Vegas, the road Vegas against Missouri is a tough bounce back spot.
Vegas don't work like that. I've preached this for years now on this podcast. And for that reason, yeah, I'm going to take Missouri. And it worked for me when I took Florida over Mississippi State. And it's worked for me a lot of times.
Love it. No phenomenal games Thursday. We're going to keep it moving to Friday night. This game, huge implications for the Big Ten. Even bigger than that, this is a rivalry that I think, and you might hang me for this, Nick. You might criticize me. I think Michigan State-Michigan is a bigger rivalry in basketball than Michigan and Ohio State. I think Michigan State in basketball means more.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I think a lot of people would agree with that.
okay. So I'm glad I'm not crazy in that. This game's going to be awesome. This game's going to be incredible. I picked Michigan State against Purdue. You picked Purdue. Are you going to have Michigan State losing 2 games in 1 week?
I might have to. I don't know, though. I do think Michigan's due for a loss. Like, they beat Ohio State at Ohio State barely today. Like, this just feels, I don't know. I don't think Michigan is like this guaranteed to win type team. So they're leading the Big Ten. Are they going to go 18-2 in the Big Ten or whatever? I can't buy into that, really. I don't think they're that good. Dusty May's doing a great job. But this feels like it just might mean a little bit more for Michigan State on the road after losing to Purdue. So I'll go Michigan State.
I'm going to pick Michigan here. They have the 2 bigs, and Michigan State cannot shoot threes.
They can't, no.
I don't know how they're going to score against this Michigan team. I think it's a match. I think it's a really bad matchup for Michigan State, in my opinion. So I'm riding with Michigan here. Saturday, I mean, just an incredible slate of games. Tennessee at Texas A&M.
Tough.
I don't know. This game, Tennessee is so up and down, and I can't get a read on them. I have the opposite feeling about Tennessee and Kentucky, where like I think Kentucky can win any game. I think Tennessee can lose any game. And I think that neither one of them can win a national title. Like they're so inverse of each other. I just can't figure out how I feel about Tennessee. I'm going to pick them, and I'm probably going to regret picking them. But I'm going to pick them here because I think this is one of those games where they make it ugly, they make it gross, and they win. And then we all get fooled back into Tennessee's a 1 seed. No, I think they fool us Saturday.
I really honestly am going to take A&M here just because I'm taking so many road teams already. And college basketball, that's a dangerous game to play. Like the home team advantage is pretty apparent. This is a close my eyes and picture it. I picture Tennessee winning. So I think you actually, I'm being stupid here and I should switch it, but I'm kind of just like, I have Texas A&M. If Texas A&M goes 0-2, then I'm screwed, but I'm picking them twice. So hopefully they just win once and I'm okay.
Fair. Iowa State at Houston should be an awesome game for the Big 12. A coaching masterclass. I loved it. This is going to be appointment television for me. This might be my favorite. Like Kentucky, Alabama, there's going to be 1 million points. Take the over, whatever it is. It might be 200. You take it. But Iowa State, Houston, I think, is the game that I'm most excited to watch this weekend. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, Iowa State, like something happened to them. They look way less, like, I don't know, confident out there. And going into Houston and dealing with that, Iowa State's the type of team that could handle it. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be fun. Oh, man, this sport is just so tricky, man. I don't know. I'll go Houston. I don't like that. I know. I'm going to go Iowa State.
That's the thing. Like, if there's any Taman Lipsy, like they could, I feel like they could handle Houston's ball pressure. And I'm also going to ride with Iowa State, which might be crazy, but I think their guards can get it done. I think their guards can get it done against Houston. So I'm taking Iowa State as well. George Mason, VCU. Huge battle for the A-10.
Yeah, this is awesome. Like this, I hope the A-10 gets both of these teams in, but it's sad because whoever loses this game technically is now going to be like way worse off bubble-wise. But whoever wins, congratulations, you're probably in, honestly. Like if George Mason wins at VCU, that's quad 1 for sure. That's quad 1A, actually, I think at that point. And they're just balling out so hard right now. But VCU, and I'm blanking on, is it Ryan Odom is the coach, I think? And he came from Utah State, but he was the coach of UMBC when UMBC upset Virginia.
It is Ryan Odom.
Yeah, so
and he is the UMBC head coach for that game.
Yes, ball knowledge. But yeah, so like they have been balling out, and I think he's more experienced. I think the George Mason head coach is doing a great job, but this is like his second year even coaching ever, I think. So I'm going VCU.
Yeah, I want to take VCU for all of the reasons that you said. However, I was going to be 50-50 on this game coming into it, and I was going to pick whoever the opposite was. And I can't just be like, oh, well, Nick made such a good fucking point, so I'm going to ride Nick's pick. I can't do it. I can't do it. That's a cop-out move on my part, and it's cowardly bullshit. And my team, hey, look, my locker room, I haven't lost the locker room yet. All right, we're still doing all right. George Mason. Give me George Mason.
Yeah, love
Confidently.
it. I'm a George
Kentucky,
Mason
Alabama.
supporter. I'm a supporter.
Go ahead.
That's my hometown team, George Mason. Seeing them do well is awesome. Like, I'll probably be rooting for them, but I have to pick with my head, not my heart. You know, that's my players like that about me. That's why we're 33-15.
Yep. Great point. Kentucky, Bama, all the points. This game's going to be fireworks, start to finish. Can't wait. That being said, I'm picking Alabama. I cannot find, unless Alabama just does not hit shots, I don't trust Kentucky's defense enough.
Mm-hmm.
They will not get enough stops in this game. Can't do it. Give me Bama.
So, especially if I have Missouri beating Alabama, then this is Alabama masterclass right here. Now, I will say, like, I think last year, this game, Alabama, Kentucky, I want to say Kentucky put up like 120. I think it was something absolutely outrageous. If not that, then like they were on pace for it and put their bench warmers in. This game truly could have a 200 flat overrun.
The score of this game last season was 117-95.
Yeah, it was insane.
That's nuts.
12 points, and I'm telling you, Kentucky was like at 100 with 8 minutes left in the second half, and they were just like, whatever. We'll like they could have got. They were on pace for so many points. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of those games. I should watch that back just for fun.
That would be a good one. That would be a good one to watch back for sure. Illinois Duke. Nick, explain to the non-ball knowers out there, aka me, why the fuck is this game being played now?
Yeah, great question, Cody. I actually have no fucking idea.
I saw this on the schedule. It's just like, wait, what the fuck?
I found out about this like 2 weeks ago and was genuinely like, what? Some sort of typo on every website I'm looking at. I don't know, but I like it. Let me be clear that we should do more non-conference games in the middle of February. I know that it happened in 2023. There was some sort of agreement where like Texas was in the Big 12 at the time and they played some SEC team or something. I remember that being a thing 2 years ago, but I think Duke and Illinois is the only example of it. So that's what confuses me. Like, it isn't some like challenge or some like multi-team agreement. It's just them.
And it's in Madison Square Garden.
I know. I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't either, but I like it.
Again, yeah, it'd be cool to have like a week in mid to late February where it's just like shit. Like Kentucky, St. John's, and Ohio State, Alabama, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I love it. That being said, give me Duke, but damn.
Yeah, I mean,
weird game.
Have to take. Well, it's in Madison Square Garden, but yeah, I'll take Duke. I mean, I feel bad. I'm now Illinois. I have like dropping hella games in a row here, so we'll see. But it's a tough little stretch for them.
Yep, St. Mary's Gonzaga.
Yeah, huge game.
Did St. Mary's win this first matchup?
They did. I had St. Mary's. You had Gonzaga.
Yep.
And I mean, it was close, but like Gonzaga just looked really short bussy in that game, and I like now it's at Gonzaga. They always split the series. It feels like I got to go Gonzaga here. Like they can't look that bad again.
Saying they look really short bussy is an all-time. That's outstanding, and I will be using that going forward. Yeah, St. Mary's hasn't lost a game since San Francisco, which happened right after the Gonzaga game. I think this is their last like losable game on the schedule, really. I guess they do play Oregon State, but they get Oregon State at home. So I'm going to take Gonzaga as well.
Yeah, St. Mary's feels safer than Gonzaga does as far as the tournament goes right now by a good chunk. So Gonzaga definitely is like, oh, we need this one. If Gonzaga wins this, you could probably say like they're in. Both of them. So hopefully Gonzaga wins. We'll see.
Yep. Like that. Missouri at Arkansas. This is a game where I picked against Missouri earlier in the week, so I feel like I should pick them here. but does that logic fly? This game's at Arkansas. I picked Tennessee on the road. It feels like I'm picking too many SEC teams to go on the road and win ball games. So I'm going to pick Arkansas here, but I don't like it. I'll say that. I don't like it.
I am also taking Arkansas. This was, we talked about it earlier this episode. I like Arkansas's chances after the Auburn game to maybe pile up some wins. And after the Auburn game, they're going to need this one. That's going to be like a huge must-have. And I think they get it.
Love it. Love it. Moving on. Oh, last game of the Saturday slate, San Diego State, Utah State. I'm going to keep this one quick. I like this Utah State team is really fucking good, and I like them a lot. Give me Utah State.
Yeah, and they played New Mexico today, which was awesome. And they kind of got robbed a little bit. They're playing at the pit, and the refs were, again, never blame the refs, but, Utah State certainly played well to win that game, well enough to win that game. So they're going to be out with a vengeance. They get San Diego State at home, kind of semi-must win. Every game in the Mountain West is kind of a must win, so go Utah State there.
Yep. On to Sunday slate. UConn St. John's is going to be an all-time coaching battle. Dan Hurley, Rick Pitino, it's going to be incredible. I want Rick Pitino to win this game so fucking badly, and then I want him to drop the word class in a press conference. I want him to say, winning with class, we won with class, something along those lines. And because of that, I'm going with St. John's solely because I want them to win so fucking bad, and I want him to make Dan Hurley eat his own shit.
That would be great. It would be quite hypocritical.
Yes. Which is, no matter who wins, I hope they say, the winning with class thing, because either way, it's hypocritical, and I fucking love it.
Yeah. But I'll go UConn here, just because, again, at what point at what point does UConn become the David and St. John's the Goliath? It feels like we might actually be there now somehow, given the context of this season only. St. John's they keep winning, they keep winning, they keep winning, and UConn just lost to Seton Hall and is maybe going to be a 10 seed if things continue to get bad. So it kind of feels like hard underdog on the road against a team that can't stop winning. Give me Dan Hurley. Give me the two-time national champ. I don't know. It's and what I'll promise you this is that UConn's always in a close game, always.
Yeah.
So, I'm not worried about St. John's winning this by 15.
Yep. I love that. Purdue at Indiana. The only thing that bothers me about this game, and I can't get it out of my mind, is that Indiana doesn't play another game this week. So they have all week to prepare for this Purdue team. I think that actually hurts Indiana. I think Mike Woodson, with extra time to prepare, is going to do something even more stupid. Give me Purdue.
Yeah, so this is tricky because I have Purdue winning on Tuesday at Michigan State. If that doesn't happen, then Purdue is definitely beating Indiana. There's no way Purdue drops it to Indiana to lose 4 straight. There's no way, right? So this is a risk, but part of me wants to take Indiana here because it fits the system that I've set up here. So I will shoot the moon, Cody, and I'll take Indiana. This is either going to boom or bust hard, but you want me to bust hard.
Yes.
Well,
pause.
Well, hold on.
Pause. Whoa.
One of the biggest pauses of all time. But yeah, you want me to fail this week.
Correct.
And in the future. So you're probably happy about this pick, but this could work out very well for me and very poorly for you. So
based on past results,
I do have maybe a slightly higher percentage of it working for me, given the momentum, you could argue.
Yep. Absolutely love it. Hell of a week, hell of an episode. A little bit longer this week, but we had a lot of college basketball to talk about. So do us a favor. If you enjoyed it, be a friend, tell a friend. Sending this podcast to somebody is the number one way to help us out. We are closing in on 600 subscribers on YouTube. That'll be a huge, huge number. We'll have to do a giveaway when we hit it. I'm looking forward to it, but appreciate y'all, and we will see you in the next one.
Adios.